If the myriad of chicanes and tight technical sections of Imola caused quite a bit of chaos, today it provides a bit of optimism to our drivers. And while Road America will hopefully be better suited to multi-class racing, it won't mean that they can let their guard down. Indeed, some interesting races have played out over the years. Let's see what today holds in store as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Chad Irvine and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Elkhart Lake is easily among the most popular road courses in North America. To help us understand why, we have our handy track guide. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. Well, with IMSA Racing here with a similar group of cars, DJ, at least we have a pretty good inkling of how today is going to go.
We do indeed, but as Road America always seems to do, whenever you throw any sort of car on this track, something's always going to catch you off guard. Now, all three of these class cars are going to do very, very well here. It's certainly going to be a different change from Imola, where looking at the multi-class overtaking, it is possible to get done at a lot more places around the track. Lots of good, long straightaways for these LMP2s to get up to speed and get past the cars. Some of the danger zones, though, that they're going to want to watch out for when coming into multi-class traffic, really anywhere from about turn 5 all the way up to the carousel around turn 9. They're going to have to bank on that acceleration and get out there quickly, as it's very, very difficult to run too wide anywhere up the hill through Kettle Bottoms and all the way down through the hurry down. through the hurry downs and into the carousel. So that'll be very difficult. With that carousel, that's where we're really going to start to see some setup differences, I think, in the cars who's running a little bit of heavier downforce, who can run a little bit in dirtier air. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But the best passing over to opportunities for any track or for any class whatsoever, it's going to be down into turn 5 and into the infamous Canada Corner.
Absolutely. And before we get to the racing itself, let's take a look at the championship, of course, as Josh Wolf, interestingly, without a win so far this season, is leading the points just through consistency. David Williams, Paul Darling, and Jason DeVries are all very hot on his heels and are very quick drivers, but they're all three going to have to try and finish races up at the top a little bit more often, as they've all kind of had their issues as the season has gone on. Billy Smith kind of under the same boat and a little bit farther back, 17 points behind Josh Wolf, but still, considering how far into the season we are, that is pretty tight up at the front. Meanwhile, DJ, we've got the GT Pro cars. What is that looking like?
Well, Joe, it's really a battle of two divisions here in the GT Pro category. You can see Kevin Binkley and Ross Booth separated by a mere 2 points there up at the top. Binkley has come off of 2 straight wins to get himself into that position, but Ross Booth has had 3 consecutive third places to keep that really tight. So that battle for the lead really developing, but then you can see it is a good way back, all the way back to Stephen Jeffrey there with Marc-Antoine Thibault and Christopher Pies, keeping that battle for third place very, very close, only 3 points separating those drivers. And Brian Bennett is only 5 points off of that fifth place of Christopher Pies. So that battle for third shaping up, but they are a good ways off of that battle for the lead.
And Chad, we also have the GT-AM championship, which looks pretty good up at the top as well.
Yeah, Kevin Santana, 96 points on the season on a streak of podiums, not missed a podium yet. Meanwhile, Joey Atterbury, 11 points back. He is 4 for 5 on podiums, and he's got some real world IMSA experience. 27 points off the lead is Ryan Wash, and then you got Jeremy Rhodes and Chris Sherburne, just 1 point from each other, but they're well off the top 3 in class.
We also have a teams championship, which is done in an interesting way in this series. Drivers score according to class. So you have a driver in each class that will add points to your team, and then you're allowed a fourth driver if you so desire. Now, DMG United currently leads that with a decent gap over Lap Rats Racing. But VRS Satellite Racing have their fair share of really hot runners. You see Booth in there, and DeVries should likely try and challenge and maybe gain some points. Meanwhile, Autobahn East and Autobahn North round out our top 5 in the points. Should be fascinating to see how that can develop, because even though it looks like a lot of points apart from one another, it'll be easy for them to wind up having big swings. Now, as for race details here, DJ, what are we looking at for today's event?
Well, we are on the 6th of 14 rounds, so nearing the halfway point of the season. This is a sprint race for these Autobahn guys. It is a 60-minute race broken down into multiple class categories, as we talked about. Now, these LMP2s, these front pack leaders, they are all running the new Dallara LMP2s for the GT Pro category, so that's the next step down, analogous to the GT LM you see in the real world. They are able to run the BMW M8, that new Corvette C8, or the old school Porsche 911 RSR, and a good smattering of all of those across the field here today. Now, moving down to the GT AM, this would be analogous to an IMSA, the GT Daytona category. They can run the Lamborghini, the new BMW M4, or the old school Ferrari 488 GT3. So they're going to be all competing on the track at the same time, separate qualifying. The LMP2 is currently the last to take to the track. They're on right now. And as we get into this race, just one thing to remember, there is no faster pair. So if you've been it, you're gone.
Boy, the pole position is split by mere inches apart from one another. 0.6 of a second from Smith to Williams. Then it's only 2 more hundredths back to DeVries. You have to go back to 4th before you get a bigger gap than that. Even then, Carter Kundinger is all of a little less than 0.2 behind our pole position in 4th place. That could easily change. You see Smith on screen currently leading things right now. And he's coming around to complete what will be his 3rd timed lap here in qualifying, about halfway through, because the laps take so long just to get around. This one will be even quicker. So he does separate himself and manages to give a little bit more comfort back to Williams, DeVries, and Kundinger as we now watch Bradley Haley come across.
It will indeed. But Joe, one thing to keep in mind here that I didn't really go through in that track breakdown is just how heavy of a draft track Road America is with these long straights. If you're able to keep up behind somebody and get that nice draft and tuck up behind him, you may just be able to get a good slingshot and get the pass going. So it's not like Imola last week, I think, where track position was ultimately key. That said, for guys like Jason DeVries, currently started off 3rd, as we see him, looks like he is on a warm-up lap. He's still going to want to try to get up to the top of the field.
So we watch DeVries try and make up those 0.2 to the pole position as he crosses. It's not going to be quicker this time. So we go back to Mike Major, who's currently last of the drivers to have put a time in 13th out of 14 cars in class. And that one going to have some sort of off-tracker issue, as it did not count for Mike, unfortunately. The other thing we have to consider is this is a thirsty little track, and thankfully we have someone to help us down to the pits yet again. Cy Andra joins us from the pit lane. Cy, I know that these LMP2s tend to have a bit of a shorter pit window compared to a lot of endurance cars. How important is that slipstream going to be throughout today's race? Do you think we'll see a lot of shenanigans with drivers following each other?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to be gained by saving a lap or two of fuel here. It's kind of like Daytona in that sense. If you can save a lap or two, that's about 2, 3, 4 seconds of fuel you don't have to take in the pit stop. So look at a lot of people's maybe to group in together into draft trains until they hit traffic, of course. But saving fuel is definitely going to be a factor here, especially since they're kind of a little bit tight. Everybody should be able to make it on one stop, but it's only going to be about 33 to 34 minutes on one tank, which is just over halfway.
And considering the laps are 50, that gives them maybe, 4 laps of window, so shouldn't see too much split. It's nice slipstream for Kevin O'Keefe. Will give him another 10th, and looks like he will stay in 10th place, though, in spite of that improvement. So we go to Robert Cancian, who is on a 51.3 in 11th as he crosses. That was a slow lap, so that won't do any good for him.
No, will not, but there you see Billy Smith starting a new lap for him. He still currently holds that top time. Here comes Mike Major, though, across the line. Mike's currently back in 12th. This is such a long run out of that final corner, and Mike does a great job, about a second faster there. That's going to bump him up to 9th place.
Great to see him get into the fray. We have all 14 with a lap time at this point. 49 cars, it looks like, that we'll see take part in today's race. Carter Kundinger didn't improve that time through. So we switch over to Mark Wilson. Looks like he also didn't find any time on that attempt. What about Luke Carbonneau in the 492? Nope, that was looks like a warm-up lap of some sort, as he was about 7 seconds off. Let's check out David Williams. I'm glad we jumped over this car, because looking at his stats lately, he started out decently, had a slew of podiums here, DJ, but then the last 2 races have not exactly gone to plan.
No, he's just really fallen the way of bad luck has David, and Road America is one of those tracks that you kind of need a little bit of luck to fall to you. If you try to force your way around here more often than not, you're going to find yourself off in the grass, and one of the prime examples of that is the corner he is going through there, Canada corner. It is all about trusting the car through that corner and believing they can go. Same thing there, popping up the hill, but we see him here coming through the last corner. This is a very, very tricky corner to get right. It looks relatively easy when you're looking at it on paper, but getting the car down to the apex while trying to carry as much speed as possible takes a lot of driver skill to be able to get right lap in and lap out. You see David there getting up and not having a fast time, though.
And following him was Billy Smith, trying to get a slipstream and see if he can improve. Did not quite work. He didn't go any faster. So here's Kevin O'Keefe now. And apparently also on a slow lap. How about Carter Kundinger once again? Still looking to do better than that 50.3. Sad news, Paul Darling seems to have, well, not sad news for other drivers really with the streak he's been on, but Darling has lost connection. So hopefully he can get back in. He still has time. Carter Kundinger still a little bit off by about a 10th on that quickest lap. Leif Peterson, who is well down the order here in qualifying right now, just starting his newest flyer. So Luke Carbonneau next up, and the 492, hey, up to 5th place, and that'll be 1 position gain from him. So we go back to Billy Smith here, and Chad, this hopefully should at least be a little bit easier with the overtaking on your classes, GT3s, the GTM classes, with all these long straights that we see.
Yeah, we ran into a lot of trouble 2 weeks ago, but thankfully this time around it's going to be a wider circuit. It definitely has some straightaways that are going to make it a little easier for these faster classes. And one thing I'm going to be interested to see is that one pit stop drivers have to make. It is a very long and very difficult pit road to get onto.
That's a good point. Drivers will have to try and maximize that entry on that uphill to time it just right. Billy Smith is going to practice that right now, it appears, as he abandons his lap and heads on in, since there shouldn't be much penalty if he does speed. And David Williams behind him did not find any more time himself. Now, he's also towing along Wolf, who has gone quicker and has gone up into second, only half a tenth off of Billy Smith. And that is ahead of Paul Darling. And I still haven't seen Darling reconnect, so he is absolutely out of time to try and respond to anybody who's taking positions away here.
He most certainly is, and I have to give credit there to Joshua Wolf. I'm amazed that we haven't seen more guys trying to do this earlier, get that draft down the long front straightaway or in the straight between turns 3 and 5. It's just trying to pick up as much speed as possible. But here we see Leif Peterson coming to the line. He's able to improve by about 0.3 of a second. That's going to bump him up a couple of positions to 11th.
Nicely done. Luke Carbonneau, who we saw briefly into 5th, is going to find time, but he stays P6, unfortunately. He abandons his last lap, deciding he doesn't have anything in it to try and go quicker. De Vries will continue on as these are drivers beginning their final flyer. Carter Kundinger with a strange line there. I'm not sure what he was doing. So instead, what about Mike Major in the number 2? I think he's going to be our first to take the checkered flag here. Yes, indeed. So looks like he's going to have a chance to try and go higher than 10th as now the checkered flag comes out. Ooh, caught a lot of the curb there on the exit of Bill Mitchell Bend, and unfortunately that threw him way offline. Didn't even come close to the apex, and he knows it. He'll abandon.
He will indeed, but here comes David Williams coming out of that final corner, and that whole approach, Joe, part of the thing that gets it so tricky. But here comes Williams to the line. He's currently 4th. He is not able to improve.
So Bradley Haley also deciding that lap not good enough and gives up the ghost. Kevin O'Keefe now coming around the final corner in 12th, having been shuffled down by Leif Peterson with his improvement just a few minutes ago. 629 approaches the start-finish line. What's the white and blue machine got? Only a 53.2, so that's not going to do it.
Looks like next across the line is going to be Jason De Vries. You can see him kicking up a little bit of dirt there coming out of the exit of Canada corner. Here he comes through Bill Mitchell. Ben stays off the curbs there. Good move for him. Keep that car all on the road, lines it up, and puts the loud pedal down.
Let's see if Jason De Vries can manage to get himself higher than the 3rd row. This is a little bit far down for him, to be honest. A 50.1 is going to go quicker and up to the pole. Whoa, that looks a little more representative of Jason De Vries.
Oi, Jason putting in a mega lap there as now we watch Carter Kundinger. He is currently your last car to take it. Takes a little bit of the exit curb there, coming through Bill Mitchell Bend. Lines it up for the corner. Looked like he took a little bit of a shallow entrance there. Runs it perfectly acceptable, and nope, he's going to come on into the pits.
That'll do it then. That's our qualifying results done. So let's go through our starting order here today at Road America. It is Jason De Vries who manages to snatch the pole away from all others by less than a tenth of a second. Billy Smith, though, is looking strong yet again today. He'll start from P2. Josh Wolf still looking for a victory. He'll be on the inside of row 2 with Paul Darling looking for a three-peat, and he has connected, so hopefully he'll be able to take part in the start of the race. He'll start from 4th. David Williams, P5, is followed by Luke Carbonneau in the 6th position, and Bradley Haley will start in 7th. Then it's Carter Kundinger putting it in the 8th spot. Mark Wilson is on the inside of row 5 and 9th, and Mike Major in 10th. On the next rows, you've got Leif Peterson in 11th and Kevin O'Keefe in 12th. And finally, the last two in our prototypes, Robert Kanchin 13th and David Warner 14th. DJ?
Starting off as the pole of your GTE category, that is going to be Brian Bennett putting himself up there, followed by Ross Booth, one of our championship contenders. Young Park will be lining up the inside of row 9 in 3rd position, followed by Kevin Binkley, your other championship contender. Stephen Jeffrey and Vince Bow going to make up row 10 behind them. Behind the two of them, Paul Lindsay will be starting off 7th in class, followed by Christopher Pies. Behind them in 9th will be Marc-Antoine Thibault, followed by Olivier Turcotte. Eric Antilli will line up in 11th, followed by Alex LaRose. Mo Islam will be 13th, followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer in 14th. Then Shane Hunter and Dominic Donenberg will line up behind them, and rounding out the back of your GTE field will be Sheldon Rosenbaum and Jerry Muller.
And in the GTD class, Joey Atterbury on pole once again with Kevin Santana. The top two in the championship are going to lead you to the green in class there with Ryan Robertson and Ryan Washkull. Ryan's there on row number 2. Then Luke Schmidt and Mark Kidrowski with Mark Schneidel and Joe Steifel wrapping up row 20. Then further back in row 21 is going to be David Perry and David Stockrider, another pair of guys with the same first name on the same row. And then Seth Schultz and Sean Reese, Chris Sherburne and Dale Green, followed up, wrapping up the field, Matt Owens, Eric G. DePro, and Cody Franklin wrapping up the field.
Cody Franklin, the only one not to set a time. I'm checking to see if he is in the session here. Looks like he is, but I do not see Jimbo Pfeiffer. Hopefully he'll be able to get out here and run in time, because it looks like he just lost connection. And in the meantime, before we get going on the pace lap, let's first off start with our usual bets on who we think is going to take the win, starting with the LMP2 and GT Pro classes. DJ, who do you think's got it today?
Well, I'm going to be taking a look at the third place position, Joshua Wolf. We were told by our pit reporter side that he was on a mega lap and then lost some speed in Bill Mitchell Bend and took himself out. So he's got some speed in that car. A little bit of a dark horse, but that's who I'm following in LMP2.
What about for the GT AMs here? Chad, who are you thinking?
Down here in the M class, it's not going to be a surprise if it's either Atterbury or Santana. I talked about fuel saving in the pre-race, and Santana showed he can do that very well and very efficiently at Spa a couple of races ago. So I have to go with the 666 of Kevin Santana taking this one.
I think that's a pretty good bet, to be honest. And he is due for another win after having a few misses here recently. This track we mentioned is not without its perils, and Sai, I know you were telling us about there's a couple places there's maybe a glitch or some extra big bumps that drivers need to be wary of.
This is prototype specific. The GT cars have enough clearance to sort of go over this little bump in the curb here, but at the penultimate corner, I believe it's Bill Mitchell Bend, there on the exit curbing, there is a large bump that if the prototypes go over with the center of their car, it will launch the front or the back, depending on which part of the car they hit, into the air, and they will pick up floor damage from it, and they will lose straight line speed, if not just blow up the engine completely. So it's important for them to be aware of where they are on the track, either when they're battling or overtaking slower class cars. So keep an eye out for prototype guys to be a little bit dainty when going too wide through there.
So hopefully everybody's got their heads up for that one as we ride on board with one of our GT Pro cars, and then switch back, of course, to the LMP2s, which are already coming through turn 8 after the hurry downs. As we mentioned, it is a long lap around here. Drivers will absolutely need to be on their game when it comes to the fuel strategy. Make sure they watch out, because you can't exactly coast back around to take a late pit stop around here, especially with that uphill climb. And speaking of elevation change, plunging down to one of the lowest parts of the course and perhaps one of the most notorious corners on this whole track, the kink, which I suspect, and we've seen in seasons past here, DJ, that is a serious danger zone when it comes to traffic.
It most certainly is. It is very, very quick. And truthfully, even with as much downforce as all of these cars are running, there is really only one line you can take through there. If you try to get offline, it will send you off into the grass. So LMP2 drivers in particular are going to have to be very, very careful and pick and choose their battles.
Well, these shots looking down the long and twisting Kettle Bottoms, heading towards Canada Corner. Base car currently leads DeVries out of that crucial place where many passes and overtakes can often happen. Will anybody be able to snatch a spot up there today? Or will it be a place of woe where many have also found themselves off and into the gravel, and unfortunately ending their day prematurely? Around the final corner, DeVries now comes, and the Porsche pace car is going to release him, let him have control. Once that pace car is in, he can decide when he wants to go. And there goes both the Porsche and Jason DeVries. He does not wait at all. Green flag is out. Big jump, and Billy Smith is unfortunately going to be caught out because of it, because Josh Wolf is already up to his inside. Paul Darling also seeing if he could maybe get his nose in there, but no, he's going to be boxed in around the outside. Great run by Billy Smith to get back into second. In fact, Paul Darling going to be able to take third potentially, but we got to go to the GT Pro start.
And Brian Bennett held the field for a very, very long time, but was able to get a good jump there. You see him leading with, that is Ross Booth trying to slide in behind him, figure out where to go. A little bit of a move to the outside as Kevin Binkley trying to get around Young Park, but they're going to single file out ever so slightly as now Park starts to flight back up to the front, trying to get a move on Ross Booth going into turn 3.
And Joey Atterbury got a great jump off the start. Santana caught napping on the outside, and Ryan Robertson takes second place away, going to turn number 1, all clean at the front of the GTD field.
Looking like we've got a clean start so far. That is fantastic to see. But up at the LMP2, some drivers have been struggling, including Billy Smith, who actually just had 2 wheels off in the grass and has lost touch with DeVries in a big way. Behind them, Paul Darling fell backwards. He was overtaken by Josh Wolf and David Williams. As you see them now plunging through the kink and into the kettle bottoms. Big blink there from Billy Smith. What in the world? I wonder if he just lost power, because I think he might be in an area of the States right now that is experiencing bad weather.
Well, as we jump back here to the GTE field, I can report a similar thing happened to Kevin Binkley. He got a little bit wide coming out of turn 3, got a toe out onto the grass, and he has dropped 5 positions back to 9th place. So a disastrous second part of the start there for Kevin Binkley. As there we've got running wide, I think that was
Jeffrey. Stephen Jeffrey in the 249 going wide, unfortunately, and falls down to 5th because of that. Off of Canada corner. A couple close fights here up towards the top. Jeffrey trying to get back on bow, but can't quite do it. Same thing with Lindsay and Pies, as Christopher Pies falls back. And we switch over now to the GT-AMS. Chad, looks like Atterbury has control.
Atterbury has control, but my pick to win this race involved in a crash on going into about turn 5, and unfortunately he's got some damage to the rear right of his car. Thankfully able to keep things rolling, but he is well back, probably about 10 or so seconds behind, 15 seconds actually, behind Joey Atterbury at the back of the field.
Positive news for fans of Paul Darling, who just overtook Luke Carbonneau for 4th place, but we're looking at 2nd place right now. David Williams, having inherited that from Billy Smith, who I can report did lose his internet connection, and suddenly everything just goes awry for poor Billy Smith. But great for Jason DeVries. My goodness, look at the gap. We're only on lap 2, and he's almost extended himself out of visible distance.
He is just absolutely running away with this field. He has got that gap, it looks like, up to a whopping 1.9 seconds. So that is going to be at the limit of the draft range for these cars. And most importantly for David Williams, he's really going to have to hustle it through these next couple of laps to make sure that Jason DeVries doesn't completely disappear out of his front window.
With that spreading apart, let's head back to Robertson and Atterbury up at the top of the GT-AMS. Chad, these two are starting to stretch away from those behind them, and Robertson looks like he is managing to keep Joey quite honest.
Yeah, just trying to keep him at least within that slipstream range. We talked about saving fuel in the draft and doing the best to do that. These two have pulled out to about a 3.5 to 4 second lead on a next car back in line, which is going to be Ryan Walsh, who just took third on this lap.
And just had a change of position behind them. Stiefel managed to get by Schmitz in the 27. And already he is under threat. That's David Sockrider. There you see behind him in the blue Lambo. We're going to watch from David's perspective as they fly through the kink. Oh, but just not as confident in the dirty air of that red and white 27.
Yeah, the front two here in GT3s have really pulled away. But this pack behind them, there's about 7 or 8 cars just all running basically within a couple tenths of each other. And my goodness, they're putting on a show so far.
Wow, that run through the kink really did hurt Socrates. You can see how far back he is from Schmidt, who's still trying to chase down Stifle for that position he gave away. It's just a whole bunch of Lamborghinis up at the front of this GT-Am field, though, right now. Very few of the Bimmers and Ferraris scattered amongst them. Take a look at Atterbury one more time as he's lost the lead. This must have happened down the front stretch. Indeed.
It just
Ryan got a run
in turn one. Atterbury did go wide, though, on exit of turn one, but somehow maintaining that position. And you can see he's doing everything he can to just try and stay out in front of Joey Atterbury.
Things get a little bit hot here in the GTDs. Can he try and attack back as he looks on the back of the blue number 210? He sticks his nose in down into turn 5, and he's going to give him space. Robertson rebuffs him and is going to defend from the outside. Fantastic work.
And that's the last really good passing zone up until you get through the kink. So he's going to have to just kind of sit back here, Atterbury behind Robertson, just wait, take his time, and try to make the right move when he sees the door open.
Man, good stuff. And we know that Atterbury is quite quick here, so I anticipate that's going to open a few eyes. Atterbury having taken a single win so far this season. But let's jump away and take a look at the battle for third. Darling trying to recover and overtake Wolf once again.
Oh, and you saw him take a big look there coming up under the Corvette bridge, just trying to see if he can force Joshua Wolf off the line. So Paul Darling starting to get a little bit aggressive here. I think he's a little bit impatient behind Joshua right now. But now as they dive down here through the hurry downs, lining up for the carousel, this is all where Darling's got to position the car. Watch him to run a slightly different line here to keep maximum amount of clean air on the car, get on the throttle as early as he can. He's going to have to try to do the same thing through the kink. It looks like he's going to be a little far back here to really try to make a move into Canada corner, but he has just got to try to keep the pressure up on Joshua Wolf and see if he can get absolutely anything by.
He's sticking with it as they break for Canada corner. He can get himself within range of the slipstream coming up the front stretch. He might just have something. Let's stay with this as they swing through Bill Mitchell Bend. If they fight too much, though, they'll start to lose touch with David Williams in front of them. So off the corner, big mistake from Josh Wolf, and here comes Darling. He knows it. He's right in the tire tracks. Wolf, does he defend? No, he's going to leave the door open. As he switches over to the inside, Paul Darling has the desired line down into turn 1, and he's also deeper on the brakes. Move him up to the podium positions, that 155.
Good move there from Paul Darling, doing exactly what you need to do. Just forced a little bit of mistake, like I talked about, out of Joshua Wolf, and now he's going to start to move forward. And a little bit of a hiccup for everybody. That is Matt Owens in the GTDs up ahead of them, so they're going to be able to dispatch them easily here through the Moraine sweep. But some of the guys behind, that's going to be a little bit more tricky.
You can see our leader now currently coming up to the back of the fields and working his way through as Jason DeVries already having to go in and out of some GT-Am cars. Cy, I know you've got plenty of experience having to deal with this sort of thing. I mean, what do you do the first time you come up on the slowest class like this?
Luckily in this league, most everybody knows everybody, so you know how most of the people are going to react when you catch them in terms of what lines they're going to take, what their pace is like, and especially since a lot of you guys have been practicing together all week, they know where the other classes' breaking points are, how fast they can take certain corners, so that takes a lot of pressure off. But at the same time, you don't want to lose to them. So it comes down to where you're going to stick your nose, where you're trusting the other guy not to take you out. And with these GT cars, they don't have a lot of agility through places like through the King and the Kettle Bottoms and Bill Mitchell Bend. So you got to place your car early, and you can see Jason doing this now, presenting the nose early to the inside and then taking that corner away from the GT car in a way that makes it safe for both.
A little bobble. We didn't see it on screen from Stifle next to him as they exited the final corner and thankfully didn't get into DeVries. But chasing David Williams, trying to run away from Paul Darling amongst this traffic. It could go either way between these two teammates. And as they hit turn 1, yet again, we're only 6, only 10 minutes in. We jump back instead to our GT Pro drivers. This is As the battle for fourth place right now being led by Vance Bow. Jeffrey just behind him, Paul Lindsay, as well as Christopher Pies, all kind of in a train.
Yeah, and I've been keeping an eye on this one for a while. You saw Stephen Jeffrey getting really wide at the beginning of the race. He has been trying to stick to the back of Vance Bow as much as possible. He did a very good job for the first couple of laps. Started to fall back ever so slightly, and that allowed for Lindsay and Pies to really catch up to him. This train really starting to form, and so now if I'm sitting back as Christopher Pies or Paul Lindsay, I am absolutely licking my chops at this. That's going to be a mega draft coming down the main straight. Watch for Lindsay here as they cross over the start-finish line. I think he may be able to try to get a little bit of a run.
One thing to note back here in the GTD category, Atterbury did get around Robertson on his last lap, and he's pulled out to about a 10 to 15 car length advantage over Robertson.
Big development there. Oh, and Bradley Haley's had an issue in the carousel. The 428, unfortunately, seems to have hit the wall. I'm not sure if he had help. I'm checking here. No, he did not. We're going to see it on the replay, but just unfortunately ran out a little bit of pavement.
And there you see Bradley in that yellow and white car in the center of your screen coming up on those GTD cars like we talked about and Cy was mentioning. So very tricky, even if you do trust everybody around you. Doing a good job. So here comes Haley lining up into the carousel, swings it wide to get it right. That's a lapped car ahead of him. It looks like he just got that car a little bit wide, didn't anticipate it, got into the kitty litter, and that sent him right into the wall.
Hopefully doesn't have too much damage from that. And actually, it had another, we don't need a replay of it, but he had another close moment that caused Sean Reese to go offline, and he unfortunately has hit the wall as well through Bill Mitchell Bend. We'll see if he joins Cy down in pit lane soon and hit over there if he does. Haley, in the meantime, is already down to 13th, which is last of our runners without having been able to see Billy Smith return, unfortunately.
And so he's now going to have to try to fight back and get back by all of those GTDs, just compounding his problems here. But it is still a long race. We still have about 47 minutes to go.
Once again, head on over to our GT Pro cars. The one we were watching before when we jumped away to that incident with Bradley Haley. Jeffrey, though, seems to be the front of the train at this point. His bow is starting to extend apart from them, making it more difficult to try and attack for that fourth position. Here we go, onto the front stretch, that critical corner exit, all of them looking to square it off. Who has got it?
Well, we're looking here as we ride on board with Paul Lindsay trying to chase down Stephen Jeffrey. Looks like he doesn't quite have the top speed to really get him going here. He's going to really draw in. Oh, looks like he doesn't quite have it. But Joe, the big winner out of all of this and this big fight that we are seeing here, I have to say, is Kevin Binkley. We talked about how he dropped back at the beginning of the race. He's been able to catch back to the back of this train, and he is now able to get into it. Here we ride on.
Yeah, watching from inside the number 75 car. His first task is Christopher Pies, and he's awful close to that Porsche. In fact, he's thinking about a pass, but then rethinks it as they break for turn 5. All of them trying to hit that tricky apex at the bottom of the hill, so no pass from here. And we heard Chad talking about this. Not a whole lot he can do unless we get a major mistake from Pies, at least until Canada Corner.
No, not at all, but you saw there Pies having to take a very aggressive line. Looked like he was going to miss his braking in point, and then a little bit of oversteer from Binkley as he worked his way back across. But here they come lining up through the carousel. 1, 2, 3, 4 coming on their way through here. Looks like he's getting a big gap. I don't know if he missed something there or what exactly happened, but it looks like Pies is able to gap him relatively well.
Sounds like we had a development from one of our championship contenders in GTD. Chad, what's happened to Santana? Did we miss an incident with him?
Yeah, Santana was involved in a lap 1 incident. He got passed by Robertson, then about turn 5, ran wide, got into the wall, dropped all the way back at the start of the race, worked his way currently up to 11th, working on 10th with Chris Sherburne, trying to grind his way up through the field, salvage as many points as he possibly can.
That one is going to hurt, I'm sure. Oh, and we've got, I think, our first incident of the kink. Alex LaRose, who has taken a tow. No, this was in Canada Corner, it appears. The number 6 has unfortunately called it a day early. Let's take a look.
All right, so there you see Alex in the center of your screen coming down to brake into Canada corner. Looks like he just gets it a little bit wide. Those left side tires off into the gravel. That's a hard hit into the wall. And yeah, it looks like LaRose has taken the toe there. That's some pretty terminal damage to the car coming in at that acute of an angle.
Oh, and Kevin O'Keefe, who I was kind of keeping half an eye on with a battle he was having, just went off in the final turn. I think he caught the grass on the exit. Let's watch.
Yeah, there you see Kevin coming around. Yep, just same thing as that happened going into Canada corner with Alex LaRose. Just ran it a little bit wide. And Joe, I can report that battle we were following in the GTDs. That was Stephen Jeffrey and Paul Lindsay got together going down into turn 5 and spun each other around ever so slightly. Lindsay looking like he was the biggest loser.
Taking a look at that on my screen right now real quick. And yeah, they hit each other a couple times. Both of them losing spots in that as we continue to watch them live. Oh, and actually Jeffrey just went off again. Looks like Jeffrey may have incurred some suspension damage from that because he looked all out of sorts through the carousel. The 249 has managed to get back on track.
You say that, Joe, and he just went into the wall.
Never mind then.
There it is. Yeah, it looks like he may have had some suspension damage. You can see the car crabbing there ever so slightly. Also, that rear wing damage, it looked like just trying to go through the massive load of the carousel sent him off a little bit. There you see getting on by him, coming around. Yeah, that car just was not happy, and that sent him hard into the wall.
In the meantime, he and a few others have visited Cy Andra. What's the damage report? I think you got some buddies already.
It's unfortunate, but we have Alex LaRose and Sean Reese in the pit lane. LaRose has since left. It looks like he's got most of his damage fixed. And it looks like he may have taken his fuel as well. I don't know if he can make it from here, considering how tight and how fuel thirsty this track is. Sean Reese is still in the pits. I think he may call it a night. He's been in there for almost 3 minutes now. The front of that car doesn't look any better. So unfortunately, that Lamborghini Huracan might stay there for the rest of the race.
Fortunate to hear that one. We've switched over in the GT Pro fight for 6th place here. Excuse me, no, this is GT AM for 6th place, rather. Stifle and Sock Rider as they come out of Canada corner. Currently split by about half a second. And in front of them, Robertson is off. Our former leader of the race is off the track and facing the wrong way. What has happened to the 210?
It looked like he just got going through Bill Mitchell Bend. He just got his right side tires onto the grass and looped it around. It was self-inflicted injury there for Robertson, and fortunately, it looked like there was some contact with the wall as well.
Yeah, and that's Wash behind him. If we get an onboard from the 86, this is a very nice job avoiding disaster. Wow, a big hit, unfortunately, for that Lambo. Let's see what Wash sees in this. He's been on some good runs lately, and his luck has not left him yet. What a fantastic bit of racing.
I want to focus back on Kevin Santana here in the GT3 class, slowly working his way up. He's been all over the back bumper of Chris Sherburne for about 10-15 laps now, trying to make up every position he can. There's some damage to the right rear of his car, but he's really working the back of that Hot Wheels machine pretty hard.
I wonder if the damage has cost him a little bit of straight line speed then, because it's not a track that you usually associate with being stuck behind someone, with the slipstream being so powerful.
Well, the damage is to the rear of that car, and if I'm not mistaken, it is a rear-engine car, so there might be some power loss there, because the front end, I think, looks pretty clean.
Oh, here he goes. Can he finally get this one done into turn 8? Chris Sherburne still to his right side, and he decides it's not worth trying to fight with a multi-time race winner here in the GTN class. So Santana now slips into 9th. Up next for him is going to be David Perry. To the battle for 2nd in the meantime. This is in the prototypes. This is Actually, I believe this is for the lead. Is this not? Is DeVries and Williams? Yes, this is for the lead. DeVries has been run down by Williams. This is going to get interesting.
It very much is, Joe. Jason DeVries struggling a lot in traffic. He had a particularly hair-raising moment with Kevin Binkley on his fight back up through the GTE field. Binkley ran a little bit wide coming through Kettle Bottoms and actually almost lost the car right next to DeVries. Very much a heart and mouth moment for him. Both cars were able to continue on, but Williams really putting the pedal down here, trying to chase down Jason. And now that he has gotten this under a second, or just barely under a second, this is going to play into Williams' hand as he is able to take advantage of that draft.
Well, I can tell you that Williams is going to be hungry, as he's not been on the podium for the last 2 rounds and had a 5th and a disconnected DNF last time. So the last one wasn't even really much of his fault. As we watch the 01 look through that windscreen up ahead, both at DeVries and at some lap traffic. It's Matt Owens and the GT-AM car. And here you can see the difficulty in trying to predict the situation as they have to try and take the racing line eventually themselves.
Exactly, and it's just kind of one of those things you have to have a lot of faith in your competitors, and thank goodness these guys are good. But look how good on the brakes David Williams is there, a little bit caught up. Jason DeVries is by those lapped LMPT or GTDs up ahead of him. It's now Williams' chance to get caught out ever so slightly, but this gap has fallen massively.
They head towards turn 8. Williams might be caught out here. He's got that GT Pro car just in front of him. Ooh, wow. Ooh, out of the way very quickly there. Alex LaRose trying to make sure that he is not a hindrance to the 01, but the damage has been done, and it's back up to a second difference between them. Meanwhile, the battle for second in the GT Pros between Young Park and Ross Booth gets temporarily split by one of our LMP2s, Leif Peterson, who's having a bit of an awkward time trying to make this pass.
That's a very difficult place to do it, going through the carousel. You can take multiple lines through there, but really once you've committed to one, you have to keep on it the entire way through. But what that has done is that separated the battle out to a little bit, breaking that apart. The gap is now back up to about 0.6 of a second.
Looks like that was the break that he needed, to be honest, as Booth is back at 0.8, and as they come around to complete the lap, he might be able to reel him in a little bit with the slipstream. No, he's not when he goes way offline like that. Unfortunately, the vet just could not find the apex, even with a microscope, and unfortunately, that'll cost him yet more time here as he loses the slipstream and is now up to 1.5 seconds. That gives us a chance to head on over to the GTDs, where some interesting developments here, Chad, with some of our leaders.
Slowly but surely, Ryan Walsh just ticking away, just cutting into the lead of Joey Atterbury. About 0.5 second gained last lap for Walsh. Last 3 or 4 laps overall, it's just been Walsh taking 1/10 here, 2/10, maybe even, I think it was a couple laps ago, he took off another 0.5 second. That lead now down to less than a second. Atterbury and Walsh just trying to reel him in for the 86.
He's going to get tense here in a second in our slowest class. Wash out front of Ryan Wash now. Sounds like we also had a bit of a moment for Kevin O'Keefe. He's simply joined Syandra. Sy, you got an update?
I'm still looking for the incident that caused it, but Kevin O'Keefe just pulled into his pit stall with the front end of his car really banged up, so I'm looking for the incident. And yes, it's that landmine I was talking about at the exit of Bill Mitchell Bend. He got it. The back of the car hopped that little bump, and it sent it into the outside wall. Tough break for Kevin.
Yeah, especially after it was looking like a decent day for him, but just wasn't meant to be. We watched from on board Atterbury, the IMSA driver, trying to shake Ryan Wash. Wash having come in with a win last round, his first of the season back at Imola. Good result and his second podium on the season so far as well. Oh, sorry, Ross Booth just had a big incident, a monstrous incident. The 03 flying through the air, and he's landed on his lid. So this is probably going to mean day over for Ross Booth. Oh, dear.
Oh my goodness gracious. And Joe, I was keeping my eye on this. This was an absolute kerfluffle coming through Canada corner. Multiple classes all trying to get in here through together. There you see Booth going down on the inside, makes contact right there, ticked into the wall, and there he goes on a one-way rocket ship straight up. Oh, heartbreak of a day for Ross Booth.
And that also involved Vance Bow, who was and is in third, I believe. Actually, was in fourth, I think. Take that back, and is now promoted to third. Wow, yeah, significant damage on the front of the vet. So I'm not sure how quick that car is going to be from here out. Pies is already close behind. That's the Porsche behind him in the 37. He might be able to make short work, unfortunately, out of the Canadian.
He will, and Paul Lindsay also right behind them coming in as well. So this battle certainly heating up. And the biggest news out of this, looking ahead in the championship battle, Kevin Binkley, who had a disastrous race on the books with Booth that far ahead of him, now will be able to pull out a sizable advantage over Ross Booth here.
That'll end the streak of Booth finishing in second place for 3 races in a row. Looks like he'll no longer have the kind of consistency that he's probably hoping for in order to attempt a championship. Meanwhile, watching Lindsay just behind Pies, now fighting for what is the final step on the podium after Bow has gone off track with some of that damage. As this is happening, Josh Wolf finds himself with a mirror full of Luke Carbonneau, the Canadian, less than half a second behind.
That's right. My early picks of this race is falling back a little bit slightly. Carbonneau there. He gets a good exit, though, coming off of that corner. So that is certainly going to help him power down this long moraine sweep. There he goes diving down into turn 5.
Got to jump away.
This is Ryan Wash dinging doors through turn number 5. Last couple laps, Wash has been gaining. I talked about it, 2/10 here, 3/10 there. Finally, after sitting right behind for so long, Wash gets the position. Oh my goodness, this battle's been heating up, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
And I think that's a battle for position with them. That is Wolf and Carbonneau that we were just watching. They're going to go 2 by 2 down through turn 8. Are they being joined by yet another? Yes, Carter Kundinger. All 3 of them for position. That actually put Wash offline. He goes wide coming through the carousel, but he manages to fend off Atterbury. So he'll retain the lead now as these 3 LMP2s take it through the kettle bottoms. They all spread apart, and Wolf will be able to retain P4, but for how long, especially when traffic is as perilous as that?
You are seeing absolutely in these LMP2s that the traffic is being the biggest player between everybody, but we got to jump back to this GTD battle.
It's been so fun to watch. It's on every corner entry. Atterbury is able to be so much harder. Very defensive line there from Wash, who's able to maintain position, but I think that Atterbury is going to get the better run here. He had a much better time coming through Bill Mitchell Bend, and unfortunately, lap traffic kind of pitting to the left side.
Oh, here we go. A good slipstream. Wash knows it, and he tries to go defensive. Atterbury trying to chase. He pops out to the outside. We've seen this work sometimes for those who are brave and can find the exit. He's got the momentum. Look at that. Joey Atterbury showing him how it's done. And as that happened, we just had a problem with our second place GT Pro driver, Young Park, with a wreck coming through Canada corner.
Here we jump back to it. You can see that is Young Park in the center of your screen. Dives down offline there coming into Canada corner. That's going to throw him off. We saw this happen earlier in the race. Gets off into the side. He's able to mitigate a little bit of damage to the front of that car and get himself spun around, but that is going to drop him down to 6th place.
Now, where did Christopher Pies start this race? Because he's certainly gained at least 2 to 4 positions in the last couple laps, and he's now up to 2nd. He's still trying to hold off Paul Lindsay directly behind, who is certainly looking threatening. We come down the moraine sweep, and you can see the Porsche is riding right in his tire tracks. What can Pies do to try and hold on to the high position for him today.
You saw him jink just ever so slightly to the inside, trying to be a little bit defensive, but Lindsay coming up behind him. And Joe, Christopher Pies started all the way back in 8th place, so he is up 6 spots.
Wow. Sometimes you need a little luck, but you can't look that gift horse in the mouth. And I think that's exactly what Christopher Pies is doing. He's grabbing it with both hands, and he's fending off Paul Lindsay, who can't get close enough down into turn 8 for the time being. Ooh, and I think we have a taker heading down towards our pit reporter, Carter Kundinger. Looks like one of our first with a scheduled stop.
Yep, and this is the time to do it. We have just under 30 minutes left, and I said they have about 34 minutes of fuel. So Carter's actually coming in a little bit early. We'll have to see if it's because he was pressured for fuel or he thought he was going to save some time in traffic. If you see lap cars ahead of you, just jump into the pits.
And a huge moment for Joey Atterbury coming off the final corner, gets his right side tires just over the curbing, and he loops it, losing a ton of time.
Oh no, as we watch Kundinger fuel up, Atterbury falls down to 6th in class with that mistake. So what was a very close fight for a potential win is suddenly looking worse and worse for the number 51. Kundinger done with his stop and on his way out. This will move him down to 10th position. And not last in the field, though. David Warner currently our last driver who had to take a bit of damage repair a little bit earlier on. Also, we've got Pies now heading down towards Andra.
This again looks scheduled. I think Pies did this to offset himself from Lindsay. It'll be interesting to see who comes out ahead after this entire pit stop cycles out. Looking like he's going to take about 20 seconds of fuel. We'll have to see to be certain. Jimbo Pfeiffer pitted earlier in the race, but only took 11 seconds. Looks like Pies is going to take a lot more. 17 seconds of fuel.
All right, playing it safe there as he exits. Lindsay is still out and running, but we've also got 2 of our front runners in the LMP2s down the lane, DeVries and Williams.
Took 26 seconds of fuel. It'll be interesting to see how much Jason and David takes respectively. I think Jason will be taking a little bit less. David has done a lot of chasing today. Looks like he's burnt off his fuel and tires. I don't think anybody's going to be taking tires today, but I think Jason might be pulling away a little bit after this pit stop, depending on how much fuel he's able to save out front.
Yeah, how important is managing those tires going to be? Because it looks a little toasty on the track right now, Cy.
Yeah, the track temp is getting up there right now. It's about 37 degrees. It's not the hottest I've ever seen, but it's definitely going to be hurting those rear tires, especially with the medium downforce trim they're running today at Road America. It's definitely going to be similar to Daytona, where the rear tires give out for the front. So let's keep an eye out for any cars getting wiggly on exits.
Williams waits for his fuel to finish, and he is out and moving, and Williams is very slow. Or DeVries slow, excuse me. Jason exits well after, 4 seconds slower. Wonder if he had some optional repairs in that may have cost him.
You know, saying that, Joe, it makes me wonder if Jason maybe hit that landmine I was talking about, had to pick up some optional damage to fix the floor or the front clip of the car there. He was in the box for 30 seconds, which was 4 seconds longer than Carter and David. So David took the amount of fuel that was expected, but I think Jason may have had some repairs there.
Ooh, man, that'll make for a bit of an annoying development for him, I fear. Our leader, Paul Darling, is still coming around and through Bill Mitchell Bend. He, Carbonneau, and Haley are yet to pit. We know Haley is likely dealing with at least a little bit of damage after he clipped the wall in the carousel. And there we go, Paul Darling. And just about exactly as you said. See, this is why we keep you in the pit, Si. He's got 26 minutes left.
It's going to be interesting. Now, the shortest pit stop from any of our prototype drivers so far was Joshua Wolf with a 24 to 25-second pit stop. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you gain an easy second or two, when we've seen the gaps come down to about half a second, it seems easy to pass around here, but in traffic it can be really difficult. So that second or two in the pit stop is valuable.
Darling looking for his stall. As we switch on over to David Williams, there you can see the pit comparison cone to cone at the bottom and just stationary there at the top of the graphic. We wait for Darling to finish up his service, and Williams is coming out of the final corner now. Darling very close to the front of the pit exit, so he should be able to get out quite quickly. Williams is coming to the line. Darlane's just starting to go now, and I think Williams is going to have him pretty easily. There he goes. So the 0-1 now retakes the lead after the pit stops. He has the upper hand.
More importantly, he jumps Jason DeVries as well.
Absolutely. DeVries now down to third because of that, behind two teammates, which is not going to make life easy, unfortunately, for the VR driver.
No, it's not. We're right on board with Jason DeVries here, but the one good thing for Jason is he is only about 0.4 of a second behind Paul Darling, and so that is really going to help him. Here comes the late move into 5.
Wow, I can't believe they found space. A little bit of a touch between them, but the pass doesn't stick, and DeVries still stays in third. Jerry Mueller deserves a tip of the hat for watching out for that coming and giving 2 cars widths to the pair of LMP2s, because that could have so easily gone wrong.
Very easily, and Jerry doing a great job, but Jason now has lost the element of surprise. He's going to try to jump back and do anything he can here.
Yeah, he falls back a little bit. In the meantime, we got a nice little fight for second place. Lindsay and Binkley in the GT Pros. Behind them, that is the LMP2 of Robert Hanchin, trying to wait patiently. He's not battling with anybody right now, so he doesn't need to hustle this. Even still, he can't give away too much time in this race, and as he tries to pick a side, now he's going to be able to overtake Binkley, but he'll split the pair of them, and that will cause a buffer. Oh, but it also slows up, unfortunately, Lindsay, who isn't able to take the apex down through turn 8, so it affects them evenly as they now swing through the carousel.
Yeah, and Kevin Binkley now starting to get on the power. He's got a good run out of the carousel. He's got to back off ever so slightly coming through the kink. You don't really want to try to make a pass there. That's going to compromise him, but it looks like that Lindsay took a little bit of that exit curve, gave him a bounce. I don't think Binkley's going to go for the move here into Canada. Indeed, he just stays in line, doesn't quite have it yet, but Binkley has just been slowly but surely rising his way through the field as all around him have made accidents and mistakes. So Binkley currently up to third with Pies and Tilly Pfeiffer, some of those gents ahead of him, jumping into the pits already.
And they both are going to head into the pits, following in line behind a couple of our GTD drivers, it appears. Is Bennett in? Yes, he is. Our leader is in. Interesting stat as well about Bennett with his big lead that he's got here today. As we see him on screen now, he's been all or nothing this season. He's either on the podium or he's finishing dead last in his class, as the Sector 5 driver has taken a win and a bronze and a third place. But his other 2 finishes of races he's attended, he's just not seen the checkered flag. Oh, and I just saw Young Park miss his stall.
Oh, that's going to absolutely squash his time there. You see Young holding stationary in the pits, but keeping an eye out on our leaders here of this category. This is going to be really close with Christopher Pies. He's got him. He got them all.
Excellent strategy from Pies. Remember, he pitted about 5 or 6 laps ago, and I talked about offsetting himself from the rest of the GTE field, and that works perfectly.
Let's watch how close this was once again. Here's Pies in the Porsche, just picking up speed. This has got to be nerve-wracking inside the car, having no idea how it's going to play out until you get past them. And just ekes his way through as they all go by his window down into turn 1.
Absolutely brilliant strategy called from there for Christopher. And Joe, I can tell you, sitting inside the sim, at that point, you are leaning forward, willing your car to get that extra half a mile an hour to go faster. Absolutely great stuff. Christopher Pies now up into third place.
Side by side for second place in the LMP2's DeVries. This time he's going to try the outside, and unfortunately he runs out of racing room, doesn't get the traction. Paul Darling still fends him off. Can he use some of this traffic as a pick, maybe? Pfeiffer is up in front of them in the GT Pro class, has to swing off to the right side, and he's not going to be held up, thankfully. Man, really on top of the wheel right now. Jason DeVries trying to throw the kitchen sink at it to see whatever's going to work to go by that number 155.
A note down here in GT3's Ryan Walsh, class leader, is in. David Perry now coming into pits as well. Everybody back behind has pitted, but Chris Sherburne yet to stop, and he's going to inherit the lead, at least for now.
We stay with this fight. Once again, looking very quick in a straight line. DeVries coming up to the inside, down into Canada corner, and once again, they make a little bit of contact this time, having to gather it up. Darling 2 wheels into the grass, and some elbows out racing will finally get DeVries into P2.
We have seen the aggressiveness of Jason DeVries coming into corners, and there it pays off for him. Just a little bit of rubbing coming into Canada corner, but that's going to bump him up a position. Now, the important thing to remember, he has 2.8 seconds to get up the road to David Williams. He's got lap traffic to help him move his way up through that draft, but that is going to be a tall order. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, no.
There's contact.
Oh, no. I think Darling was unsighted. That was just absolutely bizarre. Not like Paul at all to make a move like that, and they were in traffic. I think I heard an apology from him too.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we're going to ride on board with Paul here. There you can see getting out of the way of that. Oh, he just absolutely got into it, and I don't think he knew where Jason was in the corner. That was just, so tight.
I think the car exiting the pits maybe kind of drew his attention away for that split second. He must have missed his braking point. He just went flying in there way too high. DeVries, because of that, is still in second. He was able to get it going before Wolf could catch him, but Darling fell down to fourth.
He did indeed, but he's got about 1.1 second up the road, just down to 1 second to Joshua Wolf, so he's going to have to keep on going. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of cosmetic damage to either car, so hopefully there's nothing going to be affecting the way that they are run, and Darling's going to be able to put the pedal here and get back into the podium.
Meanwhile, check out this battle for the podium down in the GT AM class. Luke Schmidt is trying to catch up to Mark Kudrowski. And Kudrowski will probably not want to give this one up. He had his best finish of the season as fourth, and he has yet to get a podium. Oh, I can report. Oh, no. A big incident with Paul Darling, and I think he's hit a couple of GT AM cars. Shane Hunter and Sockrider are off course down in Canada corner. Let's see if we can dissect this in the replay. Oh, no. Oh, this is not his fault. This is not his fault at all. It was Josh Wolf who gets into them. You'll see it right here. Shoves them off. And then Darling just gets caught up in the mess.
That looks a little bit more like a NASCAR wreck than a IMSA wreck here today. Just absolutely nowhere to go. But Joe, I can report, jumping back to the GTEs, that Kevin Binkley has gotten around Paul Lindsay. Really good move going down into turn one. There you can see he has gotten himself onto the podium.
And David Perry just made his stop as well. So that battle for the podium between Kudrowski and Schmidt, that's now the battle for second on track. Indeed,
and it almost took place right there. That Luke Schmidt managed to get side by side down into turn 5. So Kudrowski not only looking for one position better than what he did before, but 2 positions better onto the second step of the podium, and he's looking even better as he managed to pull away through the more technical section in the hurried downs. Up behind them, Josh Wolf, who is a little bit of a cannonball right now, is going to try and work his way by.
Yeah, there you can see Josh getting by. He's going to be very happy to see a clear windscreen, at least for the next couple of corners here.
I could have sworn we predicted that today would be a little bit more of a cleaner race than what we saw at Imola, but there have been some messy incidents out there.
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of how I thought that it would go. Kevin Santana started out in front of this bag, started second actually in class. He's now down in 10th, and he's making his, I believe it's his second stop. He might be done for the day.
Yeah, he is in pit lane suddenly. And he's marked as in the lead on my time and scoring, which means he must have taken a tow. We'll send Cy running down, and it looks like there is damage. He'll try and get to us a little later on what exactly caused that. My goodness. Kevin Santana rather, watching everything all go to a gigantic mess today. Meantime, as Kudrowski deals with all sorts of traffic, he's getting checked up, and Luke Schmidt is once again on him. Before this starts to erupt, let's give a quick check-in on Syandra.
It looks like Kevin Santana had a simple mechanical failure. It looks like he wasn't able to get the car out of the grass. I think his brake and throttle was locked fully open. Car wouldn't move, and I think steering was stuck all the way to the left. He did catch some GTE cars there, unfortunately, but I don't think it was anything race-ending past that.
Another little peek from Luke Schmidt, trying to see if he can get P2 away from Kudrowski, but nothing doing there. Did get confirmation, it looks like, over the text chat as Santana used a quite colorful language to describe what happened to his wheel. Understandably frustrated after that one. And boy, lap traffic once again playing a major factor in this fight, as that was Lee Peterson splitting our pair.
The one thing to note about that battle as well, Schmidt, every time he comes out of turn number 3, he gets a huge run in turn number 5. We've seen him peek his nose out at least 2, if not 3 times around there.
And since that has split up, can we head over to Binkley and Lindsay? This is third place in the GT Pros. Now this is interesting because Binkley, who leads our championship right now, obviously doesn't want to give up too many points because Bennett, who I said has his on and off season, he's going to have drop rounds help him pretty soon. And if Bennett can get another victory, that's bad news for Binkley.
Exactly. This is really where you have to start looking at that championship. This is going to be absolutely mega if Kevin Binkley can just pull this off the way he is. That gap up to Christopher Pies that we talked about, that is down to about 2 seconds. So Binkley doesn't look like he is done today.
Still fending off Paul Lindsay as they come around, and let's stay with this, but I can report that Paul Darling's damage appears to be quite severe because he's given up yet another spot to Bradley Haley, who made easy work of him. So Darling continued to plunge down the timing and scoring sheets.
Yeah, the car not really just looking all together, nothing too super noticeable, but it is slow. But we will stay here as Binkley just tries to hold off Paul Lindsay. I have to say, I thought he would be able to gap him a little bit easier than what we are seeing here. So kudos to Paul Lindsay for being able to stay right up behind Kevin Binkley.
Making a race of it, that's for sure. We've only got 12 minutes left. It has absolutely flown by this hour here at Road America. Little time is available if drivers want to change positions. They're going to have to hustle, considering we're looking at close to 2-minute laps, if over, for most classes.
Just as a brief note, we saw Joey Atterbury spin from the lead a couple of laps ago. He's worked his way all the way back up to 4th, but he is still about 20 seconds behind that battle in front of him for 3rd.
So we see Atterbury on screen, currently leading both Perry and Sherburne. That's both for position, but not sure they're going to have the pace to keep up with the IMSA driver.
They just might. There is some damage to Atterbury's car after he looped it and kind of caught the wall just a little bit. Straight line speed seems to be okay, but his lap times are about 3/4 of a second down from where they were early in the race.
Watching them head through the kink. Lambo is on a mission. In the meantime, Olivier Turcotte, down in 5th in the GT Pro class, has been trying to do his best to shake the likes of Eric Antilli. And actually, this traffic that they're going by might help out. That is Sean Reese. Oh, excuse me, this is Islam that we see on screen. That's Tebow in 7th, trying to keep up with him.
Yeah, just seeing what he can do here. Islam just trying to put the pressure on. Ooh, big wiggle there from Tebow coming out of turn 3. So this may give a good run to Mo Islam as they head down this long straightaway and through the Moraine sweep. We'll have to see. Here comes Mo. He looks a little far back right now, but looks to the inside and kicks it back on the racing line.
sure that he's making a race of it. But, since when did Bennett have some issues here? Pies is suddenly right on top of the 161. There must have been a problem or something. I'm checking the times. No. Bennett's times look relatively decent, and down to the end, Christopher has a peek at things. Can't make it stick. Bennett might find this one slipping away from him. He's got to fend him off for a full 10 minutes.
And Joe, look out of the back corner of Christopher Pies. That is Kevin Binkley and Paul Lindsay right there behind him. And here comes Christopher Pies on the inside of the straight.
He's going to easily get through, causing poor Leif Peterson to have to weave across the track as they both try and get the slipstream. Bennett wants to try and fight back, but unfortunately it appears he is not going to have enough of that draft. Pies has not won since round 2 at Sebring. In fact, I think that may have been his last podium. Let me double check on that. Yes, indeed. That was the last time he finished within the top 3. Behind them, Kevin Binkley is looking like he might overtake them. Is there damage that we can't see, maybe, on Brian Bennett?
Joe, I'm looking at that rear wing. It looks like there's a little bit of a kink as there goes Bennett moving his way forward into second place. Excuse me, that's Binkley moving his way into second place. Yeah, it looks like there is some rear wing damage to Brian Bennett, hearing that there was a problem coming off of turn 1, slapping the wall ever so slightly.
Yeah, and I just saw his lap time come in for that last lap, 2 minutes 8, so that explains it. That's why we couldn't tell. It just happened so recently. So what was looking like almost a certain win is suddenly going away from him. And in fact, he might actually go off the podium yet again, as Paul Lindsay is close behind Bennett and looking to demote him to 4th place.
He is indeed. Paul has had a very good run here today, but now focus shifts up from them, up the road ever so slightly, to this battle between Pies and Binkley right ahead. But kudos to Brian Bennett keeping this nice and tight. This is going to be a real battle to the finish.
Great stuff here from Christopher Pies. I think we said he qualified 8th, you said?
Correct.
My goodness. 37 watches as Bradley Haley goes by him. Kevin Binkley still making sure to keep him honest as they pick up speed up to 165 miles an hour here along the front stretch. That's Paul Darling as well, approaching. Another one of our cars, many cars, limping out here today after unfortunate damage. Let's leave this for a little bit because they look like they have spread apart slightly. And this is coming down to about 0.3 of a second between Kedrowski in second in the GTM with Luke Schmidt right behind him. Again, very much an emotional victory on the cards for Mark Kedrowski. Probably even if he finishes in 3rd, but every driver loves to be that one position more. Can he hold on to it? Luke Schmidt would like to deny him that chance as he gets side by side up into turn 1. Both of them braking hard. Lamborghini versus Lamborghini. The inside line just that little bit shorter. And Kedrowski holds on to P2 for now. Once again, deep on the brakes. Luke Schmidt trying to chuck the car into turn 3. And it's a drag race here as Chad, he swaps sides and now he's looking to the outside coming into 5.
This is where he likes to make the move every lap. Luke Schmidt loves to peek his nose out, and he's alongside now, but he's going to have to take the long way around. He's going to be clear, though, on corner entry.
Has he got it? Yes, he does. Luke Schmidt with a clean move, and that is going to get him into 2nd place. Kedrowski down to 3rd.
Biggest thing about that move, by the way, for Schmidt, he was about 2 seconds or so when they caught lap traffic and easily ate that time back up. So he might just have the faster car, and now he has to make the most of it and try to pull away.
Good news for Kedrowski is that Atterbury has had so many problems. He's 23 seconds back. So he's not a threat right now. He just has to keep it clean for 5 more minutes.
Not only that, but Atterbury's lap times are about 3/4 of a second or so slower than what Schmidt and Kedrowski were running while they were battling.
Now, the battle between Thibaut and Islam is still pretty tight. And again, this is for 7th within the GT Pro class. We're going to watch from Mo's perspective the Porsche chasing the Bimmer. And Thibaut is trying to break the slipstream here. Going to be hard to do with how big that BMW is.
It certainly is, and you saw he was trying some very unorthodox ways running across the track there a little bit. I think making a mistake out of the final corner, but didn't cost him too much. Now they break down into turn 1. Mo Islam continuing to keep that pressure on him. For Mo, it looks like he's got a good run coming down now into 3. Doesn't want to necessarily make the move here. He just wants to maximize corner exit and get the draft down this long straightaway. Here comes the setup for the move.
As Mo watches in the tire tracks, we hear from under the rear wing of Marc-Antoine Thibaut, who drifts a little bit to the center of the track, then comes back to the racing line, just trying to make Mo think twice about his attempts. That one works, but Mo continues to stay within a car length and a half.
I have to say there is great patience here from Mo Islam. He is just waiting until the absolute right moment to make the move.
I'm watching this with half an eye, and the other half goes to Bennett and Lindsay, as those two have been quite tight together. Bennett dealing with his limping car. And also this fight between Perry and Sherburne. This is for 5th in the GTMs.
Yeah, this battle has been heating up for quite a while now, slowly but surely, similar to what we saw in the Schmidt versus Kedrowski battle. Just Sherburne slowly but surely catching lap traffic or faster cars in the right spots, kind of leaving Perry out to dry and just working his way onto that back bumper, even with traffic behind.
About 2 laps to go at this point. The clock is absolutely ticking down.
And just as a note on that Schmidt versus Kedrowski battle that we were looking at earlier, I said Schmidt was the faster car. He's already put 2 seconds on Mark Kedrowski.
Well, it was a valiant effort from the 944. He held him off for quite some time, which I think is an admirable feat. Meanwhile, Lindsay, who we see on screen now, looking back from Brian Bennett, who is going to get a better apex coming from turn 5, but it appears the effort is not enough.
No, not quite. That's a really tricky corner to try to overtake there up the hill into turn 6. It looks like Lindsay's just going to have to play the patient game a little bit more. I think he's really just got to kind of go for broke here, Joe. He's got to go in and make an aggressive move. He's been very passive, letting things come to him, but as the clock ticks down, it's time to take this into his own hands.
I wonder if we'll see a bit of a desperate move here from Paul Lindsay. Veteran in this series. He's way down in the championship order at this point in the season. Ooh, this is his best run. He's going to get the inside late cover there from Bennett. That's not going to do it. Unfortunately, he can't shut the barn door. The horse is already out. Oh, but he could get an over-under. As Bennett tries to come back at him, he'll be on the outside of Bill Mitchell Bend, which also rarely works, unfortunately. And Paul Lindsay now gets himself onto the podium.
It was a good move there from Paul, making it work, but we got to jump back a couple of positions. Mo Islam is right up the back of the bow here. This could be an almost mirror passes. Here comes Islam to the outside.
And Thibaut, yeah, pretty similar. Isn't able to shut the door, but Mo isn't that great on the brakes at first. They're both going to send it in extremely deep. They both run wide and somehow keep it from heading off course. Thibaut will retain the spot as we watch from on board the Porsche. Everybody is going 110% right now.
They certainly are, and here we go back again onto that long straightaway. Mo's got to kind of try to maximize the apex there. He's got a decent run. I said it before, he's got to send it in.
And this is going to be the last lap for them, because behind them, David Williams just took that white flag. There he is on screen in the 01. You have to wonder, Williams can't hold up too, so he's got to hustle through this because DeVries is 2.5 seconds behind him. So that could affect this fight. There you see him approaching right now.
Yep, there we go, and that is Matt Owens ahead of them, so that's going to throw another wrinkle into this battle. It looks like the two of them, Islam and Thibaut, separate out a little bit. Oh, there we get really tight there. Williams able to get by.
And that traffic is what closed up this gap between our leaders in LMP2. Williams manages to make it safely. Oh, goodness. Thibaut retains his spot as well over Islam, who seemed to have lost a lot of time from that.
Luke Schmidt had a little bit of a moment just a lap ago that opened the door, and Mark Kiedrowski is right on the back bumper as it goes through into turn number 5.
This is going to be our closest fight here to the end as they come up through turn 6. Again, a lot of pride involved in this finish, I'm sure. I'd actually have to check and see what Luke Schmidt's highest finish is, if this is going to be an all-time high for him. As they come down into turn 8, a big look at a big defense from Schmidt as well. And we have to jump away from that fight, unfortunately, because David Williams, coming out of the final corner, has been looking for that win since round 1. So many near misses, 2 second places, a 3rd place, and then 2 very poor finishes. Turns into a win here today at Road America. I think our next winner is going to be Ryan Wash. The 86 coming through Bill Mitchell Bend right now, with Luke Schmidt well behind him. How about Ryan Wash? He finally gets his first win last week, and he's going to make it back-to-back in his first go. Victory here today for Ryan Wash in that number 86.
Out of the final corner comes that battle of Schmidt and Kiedrowski. Kiedrowski has a bit of a run. He's in the slipstream, but it's going to be too little too late. Pulling over to get the draft is Schmidt, and he's going to hold on to that position. What a battle those two put on the last 20 or so laps.
Yes, easily the best finish of the season for Luke Schmidt by a long shot, as I think 5th was his best before then. Christopher Pies, how about this Porsche, the number 37, qualifying in 8th place here today. I don't think anybody anticipated this one, but it isn't about where you qualify. They give the points out, or at least most points out, on race day. And for Christopher, it is going to be his 2nd victory of the season, returning for the first time since Sebring at round 2. A win here today for Christopher Pies as the Texas driver celebrates across the line.
Mega run there for Christopher. That is a whopping 7 positions up on where he started, just staying out of danger and running a great race. And kudos to all of our winners here today. This was an absolute race of races.
And that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Road America. There's going to be some very happy drivers and a few that maybe will be grumbling a bit after today. But David Williams is certainly not grumbling. After qualifying in 5th, he survived everybody else having some woes and finished with the win, his first of the season. Jason DeVries made a race of it, chased him home to 2nd place. With Josh Wolf, some contentious happenings for him today, unfortunately, but he still claims P3. And Luke Carbonneau finishes 4th. Leif Peterson, we didn't even get to touch this because so much was going on, quietly working his way forward from 11th on the grid to 5th in the end. Bradley Haley was P6 and Paul Darling was 7th, with Robert Canchin finishing at P8. Carter Cundinger was the last driver on the lead lap at 9th. David Warner was 10th and Mark Wilson was 11th.
Christopher Pies, we talked about that meteoric rise up through the field. He was able to take the win here today, with Kevin Binkley suffering some damage early on and being able to fight back. Paul Lindsay also seemingly involved in almost every battle on track here today, able to come home there to round out your GTE podium. Behind them, Brian Bennett and Olivier Turcotte putting on a heck of a race, followed by Eric and Tilly. Mo Islam was able to get by Marc-Antoine Thibault making an error on the last lap of Canada corner to give him that, and Dominic Jordanberg coming 9th in class. Behind them at Young Park, Shane Hunter and Jimbo Pfeiffer, and leading out the back of your GTE cars that finished was Jerry Muller.
And now looking at the GT3's Ryan Walsh with a fantastic run. Started 4th, worked his way up to the front of the field, followed by Luke Schmidt and Kedgowski. They finished 1, 2, 3. They started 4, 5, and 6 respectively. And Joey Atterbury, after his spin from the lead, worked his way back up to 4th. David Perry then 5th, then Stifel and Sherburne, Stockrider, and then Schneidel. And then Seth Schultz, Matt Owens, Kevin Santana. Unfortunate day for him. Your points leader finishes well back in the field in 12th position.
And that will bring us to our winner of the race, David Williams. David, before we get to the end of the race, let's start with the beginning of things. That first lap looked like quite a doozy, going from 5th to 2nd. Tell us about it.
I think just lucky and in the right place at the right time, and for once didn't make a bad decision.
Absolutely. Now, you cruised back there in 2nd for much of the race, and then the pit stops allowed you to get up to the lead. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that. Were you surprised, or was that kind of all part of the plan?
Honestly, I was quite shocked. I expected to maybe gain a little bit on Jason, if anything. Typically, he's better in the pits than I am. So I was quite shocked to pull out of my pits and then see him still sitting there. So, I was trying like hell to catch him up to like the last 3-4 laps, and I realized I needed to save a little bit of fuel. So I backed off and tried to save to make it to the lap, and then that was it.
And then, of course, the final lap, he was right on you with the traffic. How aggressive did you feel like you had to be just to make sure that you didn't find yourself throwing it away?
When I came out, I was like, okay, I got a 2-second gap. That's manageable. And then I saw him and Paul both disappear off my screen. And that kind of led me to think, okay, well, I can take it easy now. So I was taking it a little bit easy, being a little more patient with traffic all along the way. And then I ran into 3 situations where there was just a lot of traffic, and I lost like 3 or 4 seconds a lap. And I ain't gonna lie, I got a little nervous looking at the gap coming down. Jason was 7 seconds back, and then he was 5, and then he was 3, and then he was 2. I was like, oh my God, come on, guys.
Yeah, the woes of multi-class racing. Well, again, congratulations on your first victory of the season. Feel free to thank anybody for helping make this win happen.
First and foremost, I got to thank my mom and my kids who are actually down at her house in Florida. They're watching me tonight for the first time together as a trio, and I won my first race. So you guys are my good luck charm. Thank you.
All right. What a way to have that happen. That was David Williams, our winner in the LMP2s, as DJ's caught up with our winner in the GT Pro class, Christopher Pies.
Christopher, I gotta say, that was an absolutely meteoric rise through the field and just picking your way through some danger in front of you. But talk me through that incredibly crazy race.
Yeah, I think one of those cars I saw went to the moon. I was just afraid of it landing on me. I don't know what it was. I think it was an LMP2, but yeah, no, that was quite the race, picking through the field, and I just was biding my time, trying to keep my nose clean. Did a little bit what I did in Sebring earlier this year. Pitted a little early when I saw some GT traffic coming up, and just let the race kind of come to me. And before I knew it, I found myself kind of the benefit of everybody else's hard times, and ended up front.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. The decision to pit early, it paid out, and I'm sure if you've got family or anybody listening to the broadcast, you could be making fun of me screaming my head off as you were flying down the main straightaway, and we thought you got it. Talk me through that moment, and talk me through that decision. And is that the key to you winning? Is just pitting early?
Yeah, so I do a lot of endurance racing, both on sim and in real life. And, whenever I look up ahead, I'm constantly keeping an eye on the traffic that's coming up and the traffic I'm going to encounter on the next lap. And if I'm in my pit window and I see that I'm going to have to pass 5 cars over the next lap from slower traffic, that's a perfect time, in my opinion, to pit and not have to deal with that traffic that others may have to. And it worked out. I ended up, when I came out of pit road, I think I had like 4 laps of perfectly clean track, no clean air, no traffic whatsoever. And I was able to basically put my nose down and do some qualifying laps on my own. And I think those 4 laps ended up being the delta was better in my favor, and I came out. I put I think about a second on the guys that were right behind me, and picked up a second or 2 on the leader at that point.
Well, so I have to ask, I'm just doing a quick couple of calculations here on my notepad. I think this cements you in a definitive position for P3 in the championship. As we start to go forward, you did well in Sebring, you did well here. The rest of the season hasn't exactly been great. Can we expect more performances like this going forward?
I hope so. So this felt like a really typical drive that I like to do, which is just drive my own race and let others make mistakes. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Other races this year, I've kind of had some bad luck where I've been run into a couple of times. So I don't think the results necessarily reflect where I should have been. But we'll see where it is and see where it ends up. I'll take one race at a time, and you never know where we end up at the end of the season.
Well, I got to say, I think that's the right attitude to have about this. And congratulations once again, man, on this victory. And anybody you'd like to thank on the way out?
Yep, my family for putting up with me in this crazy hobby. And then also my real life teams that I race with, Denton Brothers Racing, Casey Carden Motorsports, and WTW Racing. Love you guys.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was your first place GTE finisher. And now Chad has caught up with our GTD race winner, Ryan Wash.
Yeah, Ryan, 2 weeks in a row, you've ended up winning last race out at Imola, now at Road America. We need to get you a recliner up here. Tell us about your race.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to apologize to Kevin. Got into him on turn 2 on lap 1 there. Thought I had a gap, and it just closed as soon as I put my nose there. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I knew I had the pace there. Just looking at practice, did not do very well in qualifying, because I actually did qualifying without my glasses on. Then I decided to put the glasses back on for the race, which I think was the right choice. Kevin probably disagrees, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was a good race for me. It was a shame I had 2 Lamborghinis, both Ryan Robertson and Joey Atterbury flat spin after bottoming out on curbs. Right in front of me, and that's just not a way I like passing people. I like to earn it. So they both had very quick race cars. It's a shame to see their races go down the drain like that.
Yeah, what's it like when you're coming through a corner and you see the guy that you're racing so hard to catch up with just kind of sitting on the side of the road?
I'm actually going back and I'm watching the replay right now, and I remember Robertson's. My heart skipped a beat because he came right back across the track and almost collected me. With Atterbury's, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit because it looked like he nailed the corner, but he just clipped the grass just a little bit and kind of did a little lazy spin. But I was able to react to that one quick enough and had plenty of room. So it was really just that Robertson one where I kind of had a heart attack.
Yeah, of all of your finishes so far, you've had 2 fourths and 2 wins, as well as a second place in there. It really seems like you're running strong. What do you have to do to catch up to some of the guys in front of you in the points? Santana, for example, didn't have the best of days on his end.
Yeah, that one was my fault. But moving back to the front engine car is what's really helping me. I just have such a fine feeling for these front engine cars compared to the mid engine cars. Definitely an underrated car. I mean, I think I'm still the only BMW in the field, which I'm surprised about. It's a great car, and honestly, I think just that change is giving me a lot more confidence. So, yeah, I mean, I said it 2 weeks ago. The first half of the season were all at tracks that I'm not a fan of, as well as having to drive a mid-engine car that I was unfamiliar with. It was just a recipe for me not having the results that I wanted to. So definitely I should be closing out the season pretty strong.
Well, hey, don't get too comfortable up here in the booth. It might have been 2 wins in a row, but as we let you go, anybody you want to thank? Any sponsors or friends or family watching at home? Yeah, first off, I want to thank all you guys. You guys put on an excellent show. I want to thank the admins of Autobahn as well. Definitely run one of the best leagues that I've been in on iRacing. In terms of sponsors, I want to thank MF Racing Designs. Paints all my cars, does an excellent job. Be sure to give him a look on Facebook. He mainly does the stock cars, but I've deviated him away from that and brought him into the road car arena. So definitely does a great job. And then at IV_TOGO, if you're into daily fantasy for NASCAR or betting for NASCAR, please bet responsibly. And then give him a look on Twitter. There's a link in his bio to sign up for his picks. He does an excellent job. He was 62 units up last season, and I think something like 150 units up the season before that. So, well, hey, what a great run you had out there. Congratulations. Ryan Walsh, winner in the GT3s. And now it looks like Cy has caught up with the second place finisher overall, Jason DeVries. Cy, what you got?
Jason, welcome to the booth. You were so strong in the first part of the race. You got that pole late in qualifying. You held the lead all the way up to the pit stop. Tell me what happened there, because it looked like you stayed in the box a little bit too long.
Yeah, the car was fine. I went to I was going to overfuel the car, so I went to reduce the fuel level in the pit, and evidently when you reduce that in the box, it unchecks the fuel. So it unchecked, and I had to recheck it to fill up. So I overfilled with that, and then the cycle on, cycle off kind of screwed me over, and that put me in a pretty bad position. So I tried to make things up, and it's pretty hard to pass here. So kind of sucks to throw one away like that, but David's lost a few in this manner, so I think he was due, and I'm pretty happy to come back and in reality get second.
The classic iRacing fuel issues, I think we've all had that at one point or another. That little battle you had with Paul after exiting the pits, you had a little bit of a coming together, and then you had one big coming together. What were your thoughts on that?
I haven't really watched it yet. We made a little incidental contact in Canada, and I hated to do that because that cost me a point too. And then in turn one, there's a bunch of traffic there. So I really don't know what happened, if it was a missing brake marker or what, but it's a pretty big sand trap, and I found myself in it. So I was just pretty happy to rally, and I felt like I had decent pace in the car, but I put David in a position where he could just manage a large gap, and he did it really well. So second is, and on to Interlagos.
Yeah, David was talking about how he was getting nervous with your car getting closer and closer in the relative. Do you think if you had a few more laps, you could have caught him at the end?
It all depended on traffic. We were pretty decent on pace. I wasn't really going to take a whole lot of chunks, but I felt like we both had two different setup approaches. I felt like I was a lot more confident being aggressive in traffic, and I really didn't have to hold back. I could just drive the car, and it stuck. So I felt like that gave me a little bit of an advantage, but in order to pass him, I think I would have needed him to get held up. The air wash was really bad, so it was really difficult to try to get a good run on one of the big straightaways to pass. I usually lose a couple of tenths when I got close. So who knows? Maybe not, but I shouldn't have let that mistake happen in the first place.
Well, despite that, you still came home in second place. Got some good points as well. Anybody you want to thank before heading out?
Is it bad if I thank you? Guys at Satellite, GSRC, everyone in Texas that's part of the league. Glad that everyone that could make it did. Obviously, that was a bit unforeseen, and it's the end of a really long night, and I didn't think I was going to make this race anyway, so I'm probably forgetting like 20 other people too. So my bad. I'll try to have a better memory next time around here in Lagos.
That was Jason DeVries, who finished second in the LMP2 class. Up next, it looks like Chad has caught up with our third place finisher, Mark Kudrowski.
Yeah, Mark, the season started out not the strongest for you at Daytona, but slowly improving. Last week, you had your best finish at Imola, and now you improve on that with the first podium of the year. Mark, how does it feel to finally end up here in the interview booth?
It feels great. With Daytona, I was running well, doing great, and then I just left the pits way too aggressively and ended up hitting the wall and ended up sideways in the pits, or just exiting the pits. It's like, oh man. So, you knew I was in the running here. 5/10 separated the top six, and so it's like just if I held in there, and then Kevin, spun out, and somebody, several others had issues, and so it was between me and Luke, and we had an epic battle going on. But it's better to be the chaser than the chase. So when he was coming up on me, it was barely holding it together, and then when I was behind him, all gloves off.
Yeah, that battle that you guys had was raging for quite a while. Kind of just walk us through that, because it looked like he was just slowly but surely catching you, and then you were able to hold him off, at least for a little while. Yeah, like I said, it's better, to be the chased or chaser than the chased. And so, he was coming up on me. I knew he was a ways back. I had everything off as far as overlays in the cockpit, so didn't know what the relative was or anything else. Just me and the road. So I knew he was coming up on me though, and then I had some bobbles and stuff like that, and he got me on one of those. Yeah, what's it like? First of all, getting your best finish of the season, but also how did you feel kind of seeing some of the guys in front of you, like Santana and Atterbury, having issues and giving you those spots? It's a battle of attrition. Every time there's a few wipeout and stuff like that. So just inevitable. C'est la vie. And I just held it together and didn't, be one of the statistics of being out. So, yeah. Did you have anything for Luke there at the end? Oh man, we had back and forth. So when I was chasing him, I was just right on his tail. Right there. A little bit of traffic, got in the way, but. We finished within 5/10 or less of each other, so it's fun. And as we wrap things up here, anybody you want to thank? Any sponsors or friends or family watching at home? My service dog Enzo was watching. He's trained enough to not come over while I'm racing, so he came over when I was done. It was great. Well, our dogs share the same name, so I have to request dog pictures in the Discord after the race. I'm getting word from our producer as well. He really loves your car, and I have to say it looks great as well. So great job tonight. Congratulations on your second place finish. Thank you. See ya. That was Mark Kudrowski finishing second place in the GT3s. And next we're going to move to Joshua Wolf. It looks like DJ is caught up with Joshua.
I have indeed, Josh. It was a bit of a seesaw race up there for you, but after all the craziness we were seeing on track, I think you got to be happy to walk away with a podium here today.
Road America's, I was struggling all week with this, so come out and have a decent qualifying with some help from David, and then I was just back and forth dealing with traffic, and Luke definitely had a pretty fast car behind me, and I had a little issue right there before the pit stop, but dealing with traffic, and I was able to just kind of run away after that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, we were going into this race saying that it seemed like, traffic was going to be a lot easier. It's a wider track. It's not Imola, but it seemed like it was just as hectic as it was last week. How was it for you within the cockpit?
Oh, I struggled with it quite a bit. I've been trying to work on getting better at the traffic management, and it just seemed like I was getting all the heavy traffic in all the wrong spots. So that made it difficult trying to keep up with the guys up front, and also kept bringing me back into Luke and then Carter for a little bit. So it was a little bit better, but definitely not the best places to have to deal with traffic.
Well, doing the math here, it looks like you're still going to be able to maintain the lead in the championship going into Interlagos as we hit the halfway point in the season. Do you think you'll be able to hold it? How do you think it's going to play out over the course of the season?
I'm still trying to work and figure out the setup. After the update right before the 24, I kind of fell behind quite a bit on pace and kind of took some of the stuff I had figured out with the setup. So slowly figuring it out and starting to find that pace again. Hopefully be a little bit better when we come to Interlagos. Know that track a little bit more and don't struggle as much with it. So hopefully we'll be able to stay up there. Definitely still trying to catch Jason and David and Paul up front there. They definitely have it figured out.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Josh, we'll certainly be watching for it and hoping to see another good show put on. Before we let you go tonight, anybody you need to thank?
Let's thank the guys, Lap Rats, and then some of our sponsors, TFR Labs, and then actually my teammates over at Torque Freak, just helping out, kind of bouncing ideas off when needed for this setup.
Well, thank you and congratulations again on a third place finish here today. That was Josh Wolf, our third place overall finisher. And now it looks like Joe Peak has caught up with our fourth place finisher in LMP2's Luke Carbonneau.
Oh, is this Luke Carbonneau, or I thought this might have...
I was watching you on YouTube. Sorry, guys.
It is Luke Carbonneau. Okay, so Luke, the 492 just off the podium there today, but it seems as though you still had some interesting racing going on around you.
Yeah, I was battling with Carter since the start of the race and Bradley. It was pretty nice, and after maybe 5 laps after the beginning, I just saw Haley leaving the relative box, and I just keep fighting and try to catch up Joshua. I had a wonderful fight with him, a lot of fun. I've been in a bad spot after the pit stop with a GT3 car. I just keep fixing the car ahead, and I just totally forgot Joshua, and I literally gave him the podium on the silver plate. So,
well, still, if I'm checking the stats right, this is your best finish of the season. Do you think you can keep the upward trend and maybe finally get to spray the champagne?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Road America is one of the tracks that I really loved, and I'm really comfortable on it. If we just see the schedule that's coming, I think that the next race is Interlagos, Watkins and Motorsports. That those 3 tracks, I'm not the greatest. Remember last year that I told you that we were going to Watkins and just forget me to come here in press conference after the race. So we're just gonna try to bring the best result for the team, and we'll see at the end of the season.
Well, that sounds like really all you can do, and it's great to hear that can-do attitude from you. Interlagos expectations then? What are your feelings coming over to Brazil?
Depending when the time of the race is gonna be on the server. if the track is hot, you can forget me, guys. I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish above the 7th place. It's a track that's complicated. You just want to have you don't want to have a lot of downforce, but in the second sector you need to have a lot of downforce and to have a lot of camber to be really stable in those turns. So we're gonna try to have a little bit more downforce. It's gonna cost me maybe some position on the straight, but if I want to have a comfortable car, maybe it's a better option to have a little bit more downforce.
That sounds about right to me. Again, congratulations on the best finish of the season, and can't wait to see you in 2 weeks' time if it works out.
Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
That was Luke Carbonneau, 4th place here today in the prototypes. But that is going to close us out. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast that we've listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. If you want to find more, her Bandcamp is there at the bottom. And also, thanks to the team today, Sean, Chad, DJ, Dougie, and Cy. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com, but we keep a link in the description below so it's nice and easy to get there. While you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, in 2 weeks' time will be at Interlagos, Monday, March 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.